Hey everybody, welcome to the Threecast. I'm your host Matthew Weaver. I'm joined by Vincent Hoy.
It's up.
Ricky is not here, even though we explicitly did a 10 o'clock show for him. I'm not sure. It's really very confusing. Our schedule has not been very good lately. The fall is always the hardest for us because Vince is off doing his professorial thing,
Yeah.
and Ricky has like 12 kids now or something. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure.
He's collecting them like Angelina Jolie, man.
Right. Wait, and he's got to make sure they're all wearing their name tags so he can remember their names. Anyway, so this is the Threecast. We review things, TV shows, movies, comic books. We've just recently did a comic book, Hush, which was good. We did it in September. That's how long ago it's been since our last episode.
Wow.
Anyway, so today we're going to be reviewing the movie Frozen. Now, this is not a recent movie. Came out in 2013 already.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. This is actually Ricky's choice, but he's not here, so we can just hypothesize about why he chose this movie now. But Vince, you're always better at summaries. Why don't you? I mean, everybody's seen Frozen, right? I mean,
you know what? Yeah, I mean the thing is with Frozen, I didn't watch it until I think 2 years after it came out, which is rather unfortunate. I missed out on the whole bandwagon thing. But really quickly, Frozen's the story of two sisters, Elsa and Anna. Elsa happens to be. I should preface this with that it's based on very, very thinly the Hans Christian Andersen's Ice Queen story, but it turns for the little better. I mean, whereas the Ice Queen story is more about a malevolent kind of cold-hearted sorceress, what we have is Elsa is one of the two daughters of a royal family, and Arendelle, or is it Arendelle? Yeah, Arendelle is the little small country, and it's kind of pretty much Norway with a different name. And the royal family, unfortunately, after having the children, they just they die, and the two girls are left on their own. But prior to the parents dying, basically it's revealed that Elsa, the older of the two daughters, happens to have these ice powers to basically conjure up snow, ice, and sub-zero climates. And basically Anna just is a good regular kid, right? So when the parents are dead, the two daughters, they kind of live in isolation from each other because Anna feels on some level, pretty much like she's got to be autonomous because she's worried about hurting other people because of the fact that when the two girls are playing, that sets the whole entire framework for why there's isolation, why Anna feels, even though she's got a good heart, she feels like she's always being ignored. So long story short, they get a situation where Elsa becomes coronated as queen, and obviously there's a big ball, and Anna happens to come across not one but two suitors. One of the suitors is Prince Hans from the Isles. I can't remember which one. And basically they hit it off really well. She wants to, again, keep in mind she's been isolated in her own house for a while, in the castle for a while. And basically Hans proposes to her, and at that point in time, nefarious powers want to also make overtures to Arendelle. So inadvertently, Elsa reveals that she has ice powers. She freaks out. She goes into hiding. Anna goes out to try to look for her, and they meet a nice Norwegian lumberjack or ice farmer, whatever you want to call it, and hilarity ensues. Talking snowman, big snowman, ice castle, let it go, and trolls made of rocks, and basically reversion. Oh, Hans is a bad guy, and basically true love is the sisters' love for each other. Anna basically puts herself at risk to save Elsa, and basically at the end of the day, everyone turns out okay. Anna is basically the one that saves Elsa's life, and that's the end of the story. Everyone's happy.
Yeah, it's a Disney movie.
Which is really, I gotta say though, I think let's cover this thing right off the bat. Did you think that Hans was the bad guy?
No. When I first watched this, I was positive it was the little weird dude that did the chicken dance.
Yeah. Weaseltown.
Yeah, Weaseltown. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when you first, I think that's what they want you to think, is that he's the bad guy, right?
Well, he
But,
technically still is. He's just a secondary bad guy, right?
right. He supports the bad guy. He ends up being a minion,
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I don't think he's actually aware of the ulterior motive. I think he's just trying to look at his own self-interest, right? Like I don't think that Duke, the Weaselton guy, he just wants to kind of encroach trade with Arendelle, right?
Probably. But like I said, when he comes in, he just seems like the villain, but he's.
Yes.
I mean, Hans came out of almost literally nowhere. I mean, there was no. I don't think there was any foreshadowing that he was the bad guy at all. All of a sudden, when he has Anna locked in the room there and she's begging or whatever, that's when he reveals himself.
Yeah.
That's like the first you hear of him being the bad dude.
Yeah, which, you know what, honestly, it was, to me, for a Disney movie, though, this is the thing, like, a Disney movie broke two cardinal rules, I think, in that one, right? Where it's like, you have someone who's like a princess and the prince thing. Like, it's kind of like one of those destined a fait accompli kind of things where it's like, hey, these two good-looking white people, they're a prince, guess what? They're going to get it together, right? And they break that rule, right? And the second rule is that the villain is actually not a bad-looking character. Like, I mean, like, you look at even, like, say, Beauty and the Beast. Like, Gaston wasn't ugly, but you can see, like, he had the big eyebrows and stuff that made him look kind of angry and mean. Like, Hans looked like a good guy. Hans was good at kind of acting really nice, and it's just, for me, I was like, okay, like, as trying to explain it to my daughter, it's like, yeah, it's a political move, and oh yeah, he's talking about like murder. Like, this is the thing where you're like, yeah, you have to explain that, like, he's not just leaving her locked up in the room, he's banking on her dying, and you're like, that's a tough one to explain to your kid, man.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, if you're gonna get in, I mean, you're talking about the two Prince and Princess being the white people. The only black voices they had were the Rocks, right? I mean.
Oh yeah. There. Actually, no, it's not all of them too. It's like only two of them are black. Like the little guy, the little kid, and the female troll, right? Like, that's about it.
That's it. So it is a very, very white movie, but I mean,
but then they do try to make it up. They do try to make it up in the second one, which is very forced.
Yeah, see, I haven't had a chance to see the second one because, Vince, there's a universal truth to all Disney movies. I mean, really all movies, but really all Disney movies, the sequels almost universally suck.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, National Treasure 2, terrible. Lion King 2. Terrible. Aladdin 2, terrible. I mean, you could just go down the line.
Godfather 2, Empire Strikes Back. I mean, come on.
All right. Well, I mean, there's some obviously going to be some exceptions, but
yeah, I know where you're going with this.
When it comes to Disney movies, the sequels are always bad. That's the reason why I've been procrastinating watching the second one, even though I enjoyed the first one. So my thoughts on the first one is that the music is really good.
Really? So I have a question about that. Outside of the first maybe half hour, what are the songs that actually stand out? Because I was playing the soundtrack for my daughter, like, I was just making sure, and I realized that it's so front loaded. Like, there are no songs after a certain point where you're like, oh crap, there aren't any songs. Like, it's like, okay, that's it. Like, after Let It Go, there's nothing else.
The only song after Let It Go that's any good is Fixer Upper. It's kind of forgettable because it really it has no impact on it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it kind of fits in with the rest. The reason why I watched this movie to begin with was because I saw Let It Go on YouTube. I watched the it was one of those things where YouTube recommended it to me because I like musicals or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I watched that. I was like, oh well, that's a good song, so I'm gonna watch the movie. But the music is fairly good. They did a fairly good job of the voice acting for the songs was fairly good. Even though what's her name that does Elsa? Dana Menzel.
Yeah, she does Wicked. She's Wicked Witch of the West. Yeah.
Her voice is a little thick. When she gets to singing high pitch, her voice changes. It's a little weird.
You know what? I don't mind it because it's like it's Broadway. Like she projects
Yeah.
like she's on Broadway. Like I mean, I don't hold it against her that she belts it.
Oh yeah,
Right?
there's nothing she could do about it. It's just how she hits the high notes.
Yeah.
How she has to do it. Um,
Yeah.
so really, that's really I can boil my thoughts down to the music was good, the story was pedestrian, for the most part. I mean, yeah, you can look at the way that the villain came out of nowhere, and that's kind of unlike any of the other. Because like I mean, other Disney movies, Lion King, Scar's the villain.
Yep.
In Aladdin, Jafar's the villain. So in this one, the only thing that's different about this one, other than every other Disney movie, is that you don't know Hans was the villain. Other than that, it's still a Disney princess movie. There was no shock and awe that the good guys all lived at the end and had happily ever after. It's a Disney movie, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not gonna have a sad movie and it be a Disney movie. At least not like like a animated sad movie.
Yeah. No, but
I mean,
the thing about the movie that also was a twist, like, was the fact that unlike a typical, like, I mean, anytime you think of Disney princess movies, right, you always make the assumption that it's going to be like, and they live happily ever after because she's going to find the man of her dreams or whatever, right? And in this one, it kind of turns it on its head, where it's like the girl that does try to find the man of her dreams ends up finding that it's like a bad guy, and the good guy that she ends up being with isn't overt, and it's not like at the end of the movie whether or not they're going to be anything more than just like dating, right? Like that's it, right? Whereas like a lot of them, like to this day I still find it strange that in a lot of Disney movies it has to end with the two people getting married. Like I was watching The Princess Frog. I'm not sure if you watched that. It's the one where it's a Disney movie where it's basically the frog princess. She kisses the frog. The frog's a prince, and she turns into a frog too. But it happens in the Bayou, right down in Louisiana. And I just found it weird that at the end of the movie they both transform back from frogs to people, and they get married. And it's just like, that was really not necessary, but they had to just force that fact that, hey, she got married at the end, right? So this movie, Frozen, does not make that. It basically says, no. The queen does not find true love insofar as like a spouse. She finds true love in her sister, right? And her sister, Anna, does not actually really get married. She might find true love, but you don't know that at the end of the movie. So I thought that was just another interesting thing where it's like very progressive for Disney, right?
I guess that is one way it did subvert expectations. But I think it came at a kind of an era of Disney where they were trying to get away from some of the
Tropes.
more, gender stereotypes, I guess is what they were trying. Because I mean, every princess, you're right. They got married and then they were just the little woman at home. The Aladdin became the Sultan. He got all the power, even though the story was about Jasmine, right? So, I mean, same thing like Little Mermaid. The guy's the prince. She's just gonna marry him and become his his spouse. I mean, where this one it left all the power dynamic in the two main characters, which this time happened to be female, which is good. You didn't see the reindeer dude. What's the guy? Sven's the reindeer. Kristoff.
Kristoff is the guy.
Yeah. It was he doesn't get married and like become king or something. So which is different from a lot of Disney movies.
Yeah.
Like I said, the thing I enjoyed most about it was the movie. So what did the music? What about you, Vince? What would you what are your main thoughts on the?
I think that I can understand why it was such a big hit with the kids, specifically little girls, right? Because I can imagine countless girls can rally around this, where it's like, I don't need a man to kind of be an end goal or like the kind of savior. The fact that it was talking about sisters and sisterhood, I think that was good. Like, I mean, to me, as a father of like two daughters, I was like, yeah, okay, I can see this is really kind of good, because it's something that I don't have to worry about my daughter thinking that she needs to have a man or a male figure to kind of have value, right? So that was one of the good things. You're right, the music was pretty catchy. I have a video of my own little daughter when she was like 2. We actually got her a Elsa costume, and it had the tiara and everything. And of course, you press this amulet in the middle of her chest, and it would sing like "Let it go," right? So of course, it never occurred to me that my kid watched the movie so damn much that she'll be saying "Let it go," and then at the last time she sings "Let it go," she takes her tiara and throws it, like just like Elsa does in the movie. And I'm like, Jesus, that was like a $15 tiara, man. Why would do that? So it's just kind of funny that like she really, really felt it. And of course, I think it's good because also you got a girl that has got like, basically she's Iceman, right? She's got special magic powers that I think is kind of cool. Because if you look at it, like a lot of the other girl stories, the princess is just a good person, right? Like even Rapunzel, she's got a power, but it's like, okay, her hair is long and it kind of heals people. But like Snow White doesn't have a power. Cinderella doesn't have a power. All these people are women, and rightfully so. They get away. They get through life being smart and being kind. But this is one of those cases where like you got Elsa's a badass, right? And she basically like takes out an entire platoon, right? And Anna has got a heart of gold, and she just all she wants is she just wants to be loved, which you can't help but kind of feel sorry for her in that movie. But it's just you got both those polarities, and I can see definitely how kids would be very much that's my thing. And what's interesting too, I just thought it would be interesting to draw attention to the fact that I actually I do some summer camps on the side with kids, right? And I remember when like 2014 or 2013 was around, the camp counselors would be talking and they would be quoting stuff that like Olaf, the snowman, said, right? And the girls and the boys would both be responding to it in a very positive way. And I was like, okay, clearly Frozen is not a girl movie, right? Like, if you watch Cinderella, it's not like the boys would be like, yo, man, I love Cinderella, that scene, right? It was, but the boys actually kind of, I never thought of Olaf as like a kind of relatable character for guys. If anything, it was just like this dumb sidekick. But I guess, again, the innocence and the kind of niceness of that character made it not necessarily specific to female or male genders. It was just like it's kind of like just good people. So I can definitely see the kind of appeal. Mind you, I'm pretty sure you would have picked up on this too because you got a musical streak in you. So when I first heard the sound, like just like I was watching with my kids, right? It didn't click because I was like, I know this voice, right? I know this voice. And then it clicked on me. I was like, that voice is the voice of the guy from the Book of Mormon. Josh Gad, who is the guy that's the voice of Olaf and has been since in a lot of other things, he is the voice of Olaf, and he's also the main character in the musical by the guys that did South Park. They made a musical called Book of Mormon. So I just recognize that voice because it's very distinctive. It's like got that nasal tone, right? Mm-hmm. And then I was like, okay, cool. And then did you also notice the voice of the guy that plays Kristoff? Do you know who he voices?
Mm-mm.
He's also Broadway. He's the voice of King George in Hamilton.
Groff?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, I think I did know that.
That was the thing. I was like, holy cow, is it that small a world? Because, see, I know obscure stuff about musical theater. Like, say, for example, you know that the original voice of Mufasa in the Lion King, the Broadway show, his name's Samuel Wright, right? He also happens to be the voice of Sebastian the Crab in the original movie of Little Mermaid. So it's like just some small, weird, incestuous Disney kind of thing, man.
While we're nerding out, the character who voiced the female lion that gets with Simba in Lion King the movie.
Isn't that Beyonce?
No. Her name is like Moira Kelly or something like that. She was also in the first season of The West Wing. So.
Oh really?
Yeah, it's just crazy things, Vince, I want to talk back to you about something you said. Like you said that this movie kind of says women don't need a man or whatever. Mm-hmm. There's one thing that kind of stands out that proves that point wrong. I mean, the vast majority of the movie is Trolls. Yeah, the Fixer Upper song.
So but that's the thing. I would say that the Fixer Upper. Ask yourself, what is the focus of that song? Because it's on one hand you could be like, is it fixing up her or is it fixing up him? Because he's not good enough for her and she's not.
It changes at the end, right? It kind of flips, but at the beginning he's the fixer upper, then she's the fixer upper.
Yeah, but you see,
she ends up being engaged.
But my perspective on this is that it's basically equally kind of saying the situation. I think that the reason why it's effective to me is because these guys are rock trolls. They've been around for like millennia, right? So that's why it's like, okay, they've got this very fixated thing about not necessarily that females are subservient to men, because that's fairly clearly inverted. I mean, or balanced at least in that song. But it's very fairly clear that, you know, it's about, okay, so just get married. Like, it's the kind of thing where, like, you know, the second you're dating someone, your parents are like, get married and I want grandkids, like that kind of thing. So that's the kind of way I saw that situation, where it's like there's curmudgeonly old people, like, it's like, hey, how's your day? I passed a gallstone, like that kind of thing, right?
Yeah. Well, that does make sense because they raised Kristoff, right? So,
Yeah.
they made a movie about, basically those trolls are the same trolls that are in the movie Trolls, yeah? Or are those different trolls?
No. No. Like, you're talking about like the Justin Timberlake Trolls movie? No.
They, like, I thought that they made a movie with with the rock troll. I don't know.
I know that there are movies where there are rock trolls. I'm thinking about the creepy ass Return to Oz thing, where it's like the rock troll like eats eggs and it dies or something like that. It's a creepy ass movie. Just if you guys have Disney Plus, look that up, because that Return to Oz movie is creepy as hell. It should not be for kids. In any way, and then can you explain to me though, why is Olaf such a popular character?
I think it probably has something to do with him being adorable.
Or just
well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, he plays no real role in the film other than being
comic relief.
Yeah, I mean, he's funny, right? And that's really the only thing. I mean, that, and I mean, if there was another, I mean, everyone, if you ask people what the main song of Frozen is, everyone would probably say "Let It Go," but I don't actually think that's the main song. "Want to Build a Snowman" is the main song of this. It's the one that appears throughout the film, like
Yep, the motif is there. Yep. Yeah,
any John Williams thing has the one tune that goes throughout the whole thing, and I want to build a snowman is the one from this movie. So that's the main thing. I think that's where Olaf is, because he's the snowman that they want to build. You know what I mean? So it's the one that he appears at the beginning. You know, he melts after or whatever. Elsa hits Anna with the ice.
Yeah, but that's a bit of a plot question for me, because maybe there's going to be an explanation of this. I think my daughter was telling me that, like, on Disney Plus there's like a little short on the origins of Olaf, because to me one question that I had was, how do they explain Olaf's existence? Like here's the thing, like, you see them as little kids at the beginning of the movie making and going, "Hi, my name's Olaf, I like hugs," right? But at no point does it ever explain, why does Olaf exist? Because it's not like remember, the whole reason why she sings "Let It Go" and she's getting her independence, she's on her own, and it's not like she's like, "Yo man, you know what, while I'm out here I'm gonna make a random snowman and make it come to life and just totally abandon it," right? There's no explanation for why that snowman exists, right? And it's just like, he just happens to pop up rather serendipitously, and you're just like, wait, that's a pretty Deus Ex Machina, like, just drop in some comic relief, right? So I needed that to be a little bit more clarified, because I can understand, like, the big marshmallow guy, the big snowman that protects the castle. That makes sense, right? Because she's got to have some muscle, right? But right. The like, Olaf is just like a random, right?
Yeah, I think I think it was just comic relief, but and also the snowman thing. But I mean, because you can't have a song about a snowman and then not have a snowman, right? I mean, that'd be kind of breaking the rules.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't really have to have a big plot reason. I mean, you also, Vince, when Elsa is running away there at the end, before, while Hans is still doing his evil kick after he's revealed himself, the one that helps Anna, escape the castle is Olaf. So
yeah, but again, I think that is a
Kristoff is gone at that point.
Yes, and
so they needed somebody to help Anna, who's at that point dying, to get her out of the castle and get her towards Kristoff, who at that point they still think is her true love or whatever.
Yeah, but I also think that if they were really good about it, they could have just made it like, hey, look, girl power, she can do it herself, right? Like, because she's throughout the movie it's established that she's like the more headstrong, like she's gonna she's gonna do it even though it's stupid. Like, oh, I'm climbing up this mountain. It's like, okay, you got like
in like
1 foot off the
like
ground.
half a dress or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And like when she falls down into her dress freezes, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna go straight to the store." It's like, "Yeah, ain't no thing. I'm gonna like so." So it's been very clear
and
that
there happens to be a
store.
There happens just to be a store out there with a sauna in it,
Yeah, which brings me to my other thing about like, if you were Norwegian, right? Would you take any of that as offensive? Sure, it's Arendelle, right? But Arendelle, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's talking straight up. There's fjords. There's like sauna. Like the guy's name is Oken, and he has saunas, and it's like yoo-hoo, like that. Like, I mean, come on, man, you can't get like more stereotypical. Like if they did something in Mulan, actually they did this. I was gonna say it's like doing something in Mulan where everyone has like slanty eyes and like they're like like that kind of thing, but they actually do that. So I guess good job, Disney. Way to kind of go white racism there.
Well, I mean, Disney has always done that sort of thing. I mean, with
Yeah, but after the Aladdin debacle way back in the 90s, I think they started softening up, right? Remember, like Aladdin was like, where they cut your face for smiling or whatever. I can't remember what it is.
Well, after Aladdin, really, they didn't really get better. They just changed what they did. They went to non-human characters like Lion King and Cars and toys and things like that. They didn't really get back into the human style characters until I don't know. I can't the first. I mean, they didn't do a princess story after.
Oh, Aladdin. They did like Merida. What was that? Brave. Yeah. I'm saying, what other movies did they do? Brave. That's the one they don't talk about.
Well, I think if you look it up, there would be quite a big gap between Aladdin and the next princess movie because of the problems that Aladdin had. Now you got to, I mean, obviously that's really kind of untrue because he did the Aladdin sequels, but nobody really counts the Aladdin sequels because they're horrible.
Well, anything when during that period with Disney where they went to do that whole straight to video BS, I think that's what kind of ruined their brand, and they kind of realized that, hey man, we gotta get it together because we're falling apart, man.
Well, that and Pixar kind of ate their lunch until they purchased
bought them.
So.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I would agree on that.
Like all of a sudden it was no longer Disney doing the great awesome animated stuff. It was Pixar doing Toy Story and all that stuff. Anyways, Vince, what would you give Frozen for a score?
You know what? I gotta say, I'm a little bit torn because I know that everyone loves it, but I honestly like after the first 40 minutes maybe it's like it just kind of really I could fall asleep, right? Like, I mean, there's no catchy songs. So, as much as everyone makes a big deal of the music, as everyone makes a big deal, like the animation's conventional. The plot, I think, has a little bit of a fun thing to us at the end, but again, it's still like no ho hum. It does not get better in the sequel. I'll just say it right now. So I'd say a solid 3.5 out of 5.
All right. So if I were going to judge just the music, because if you're just listening to a soundtrack, it doesn't really matter if the second half is meh because there's not really a second half. I mean, you're not paying attention to the plot. You're just listening to the tunes. If I was just judging the music, it'd be 4 out of 5. But I think I'm going to agree with you, 3.5 out of 5, because the plot is just. I mean, yes, you're right. There are those twists and they're booking conventions on what a traditional Disney movie is. But even then, who cares? I mean, what changes in this movie because they didn't reveal who the villain was from the beginning? I mean, was I shocked? No. I mean, was Anna heartbroken because the guy she was engaged to turned out to be a villain? Not really. Like half a second later, she was making out with Kristoff. I mean, so, I mean, by that point, she'd already fallen in love with Kristoff. She let him go. I mean, which of course she let him go because she met him and got engaged within like 15 minutes. I mean, the twists in this were just there, and it didn't seem consequential at all. So I think I'm talking myself out of 3.5. I think I'm gonna go with 3 out of 5. I like the movie. I've watched it a few times, but I watch it because of the music, and I usually stop watching it right after Let It Go. So I usually, it's usually I want something like on in the background, but I'm too lazy to put on, the soundtrack, so I just let the music play in the background from the movie, and then stop after Let It Go, and that'll be fine. When I'm in the mood for a Disney film. Anyways, that's.
I'll be honest with you, man. It just no spoilers here, but if you ever get a chance to watch the second one, if you thought having the parents die in this movie was kind of like, whoa, that's like some Up territory. Like the first 5 minutes of Up is pretty like bad, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like it's pretty like heart wrenching. And then you see the parents die in this one. When you watch the sequel, Frozen 2, I honestly I don't know who the audience was meant for. I would say that if we were going to do another episode, it would just be like, can someone explain to me how they put together, and to be fair, I watched the show behind the show of like how do they put the episode, like there's a miniseries on Disney Plus on how they made Frozen 2, and even as a grown-up and as a guy who deals with computer animation, as a guy who deals with music, I am surprised that if you were charged with making the sequel to one of the most like biggest hits for Disney in the last God knows how long, right, that it seems like it was so by the seat of your pants that the plot, I mean, I want to talk to people and just say, like, did you understand what the plot was? Because I'm missing, and like, this is a Disney movie. Like, this should not be like this isn't like, Interstellar kind of, like, a Nolan movie. Like, it shouldn't be like, I need to talk to someone about the plot. This is, for the sequel to Frozen, there are some questions that I have. And maybe it's like stupid leaps of faith or just like, and it's not even stupid things like, why is there one black guy? There is a black guy finally in Frozen, right? But you're just like, where did this black guy come from? Because do you remember seeing any black people in Frozen 1?
No, not a single one. No.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna put it out there. I think that Disney kind of wanted to make up for lost time, so they're like, hey, just in case you didn't know, we had a black general or a black soldier, and and let's just make sure that we throw in flashback scenes, and it's like, oh yeah, there was a black person in Arendelle, and you're like, I don't know, man, it's kind of forced, right?
Like that's a retcon if you've ever seen one, right? I think the husband and wife who wrote the music, and I think
the Avenue Q guys,
right? They didn't want to do a sequel at all.
Oh, serious?
Yeah, Disney
the money
wanted
wasn't good enough.
Well, okay, so they didn't want. They thought that the first one stood alone really well, which it did. I mean, it had a beginning, middle, end. I didn't feel like it needed a sequel. It's like doing a sequel to The Departed. I mean, like it doesn't need a sequel. So they didn't want to do it. So I think Disney kind of just threw money at him and told him, "Hey, do this." I think that's probably the reason why it's bad. But also the reason why Disney wanted a sequel is because they wanted to bring attention to the fact that Frozen's not Broadway, right? So that's where Disney's making like half of its money or whatever is on, or at least before this.
Yeah.
Before the world fell apart, it was, Lion King was $1 billion show. Aladdin ended up being $1 billion show or whatever. So I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why they ended up doing a sequel. It's because they wanted. It was like Disney is always all about the money.
If that's the case, I can kind of see that, because when they were doing the behind the scenes, I'm not even doing. There's like a little mini arc of like so like the one major arc is just, oh my god, we gotta run to this deadline to get this movie done, right? So that's that. So you can see all the animation studios working on all that stuff. But then there's like, oh, we gotta record a song, and for I'd say 3 episodes of this like mini series on the making of Frozen, it's like, okay, we really got to get a good song, and they go back and forth. Remember, the couple that made the music, they're in New York, right? So they're doing all these teleconference calls, and they're flying them into like I don't know, like I would assume like, I don't know, California probably. So they're doing all this stuff, and I just felt that it was like, it just, when you see the stuff that's behind the scenes and under the hood, you're like, holy crap! Like they just said, like the executive producers basically, like, you know what? I just came up with a new idea for the story, and this is how it's going to conclude. Can you make a new song for it? And the couple in New York are like, you're asking us now? like, and then they have to get all these other people recording, and you're just like, what? And that's where I noticed. I'm like, hey, that guy's the guy from Hamilton. So yeah.
I'm almost positive. So if you on the soundtrack, they have like it's like a double CD or whatever. I mean, whatever they call it now that everything's digital.
Mm-hmm.
But where the husband and wife that write the music, they talk a little bit about how they created the songs, and I'm 100% positive that's where I heard that they said that they didn't want to do a sequel because that's why it was just a standalone story. Anyways, we pulled 40 minutes out of Frozen, Vince. I thought for sure we'd be done in 20.
Sorry, man.
Actually, no, don't apologize. It's good. I just thought it was gonna be a short show because I'm like, what's there to say? It's Frozen. I mean, everybody's seen Frozen. Anyways, if you want to get in contact with us, you can do so. You can contact us via email at the3castshow@gmail.com is the email address. The 3castshow@gmail.com.
What happened, man?
I still own the URL
Okay.
or the domain, but I don't have it attached to an email server. So if you email at the3cast.com, it won't go anywhere. It'll just get bounced back.
Oh.
So it shouldn't have been finding some place and paying for an email server for it just doesn't make any sense. So I just use Gmail. It's free. Anyways, if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can also follow us on Twitter at the 3cast. I'm at MTWB. Vince is VWHUI. Ricky, who is not here, will hopefully join us for an episode again. One of these things. He's been on like one out of the last 3, I think. Anyways, Ricky_111, like him and his 12 kids or whatever. You can also follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/the3cast. Our next episode, whenever that may be, will be Diamonds Are Forever. It is the last Sean Connery James Bond film. And as we record this, Sean Connery just died like, a week ago now?
I think he died after the election, or right before the election. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's like a week, maybe a week and a half or something. It hasn't been too long ago. Alex Trebek just died. Everybody's dying.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyways, on that happy note, that is it for us this time. We'll see you next time.